Okay. Good morning. What's that?
It'll be a Lotus, I guarantee it.
That's what took me too.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a sparkling water.
It's in the bag,
Okay.
the suitcase.
Oh,
I
never
wish I
mind.
had case.
Okay, how's everyone doing? Okay, I'm listening a couple folks. Okay, just real quickly, Thursday's video, I think everyone watched at some point and learned about
Escape script.
Great. Did we not see it? Did I forget to post it? It's definitely on my YouTube channel. Okay, watch that at some point. Elizabeth.
Oh.
Minus 1 point. Wait, 803.
To be fair, it's because Carrie was like, you guys can't park out here. And I'm like, sorry.
Sounds like a you
Did
problem,
you park in
as
the
Tanner would say.
30-minute zone?
Yeah, and then she was like, well, actually, I guess it's not a problem if you can move it before 10. And I'm like, yeah, Carrie, I just want class.
When I was supposed to park in this lot over here, and I literally pulled into the parking lot and went, ah, crap.
Like,
Fine.
what?
We
Oh,
left our
there.
car there. We're like, Carrie, we'll move it. I don't care.
Sorry. Sounds really dramatic.
It really was. It really
So hard to get here.
I feel as though that was a professional.
It did really impede my ability to roll up right at 8 a.m.
I've only ever been in institutions where you have to walk like a mile from the parking lot to your building, so
I
don't feel
cannot
that bad.
relate.
There are only so many perks to living on a small campus. Let us have
Let us.
When I was an undergrad, I paid $1,100 for a parking pass.
What?
To
I'm
be,
sorry, what?
To be like 4 blocks away.
Jeez, I would have just gone some
I went city campus. Parking is a luxury. It's worth it. So yeah, probably like twice as much now. So don't complain about your parking 2 feet down. Okay, anyway. We're done with mallets. We will take a mallet unit quiz on Thursday. So you have a couple days to review. I feel like we're in pretty good shape. But maybe look at you okay, Tara?
Yeah, I'm great. Never better.
For today, great. Then you're even more ready for Thursday.
That's true.
I was worried you guys would be like, we didn't see you on Thursday, and there's a weekend, and I haven't thought about it, and I'm stressed, so.
I mean,
Yeah,
that is
That is 100% what I was gonna say.
Great, well, now you have 2 days. It's gonna be fine. Yes, good. Okay, so I want to start talking about timpani today. So we'll get some timpani ideas in our head and take a quiz on Thursday. I don't know if you guys think that's weird. I kind of like starting the next thing and then quizzing a couple days later. To me, that seems like, let's make sure it's still in your head. Because you do need it in your head like in the future and not right this second, so that's good. Yes, Sam? Great. Okay, so timpani, we'll go back to the drums in a second and talk about some stuff. Just big overview. What's my big overview? Okay, in general, timpani, we have anywhere from hopefully 2 to 4 drums, right, in most schools, or 0 to 4 drums, depending.
Have you ever seen a single timpani? Like
Like-
in school having just one kettle drum? That would be dumb, wouldn't it?
No.
My school had one.
Oh, your school had only one? Perfect.
Well,
they
somebody
got another one.
What a treat.
probably stole it.
How do you steal it? How do you steal it?
What would you do with
Hey,
it?
they weren't very big, okay?
What, like,
They fit in my car.
I'll just
Swap
put it
out.
under my shirt.
Yeah, there you go.
I could definitely fit one in the back.
How dare you ask me?
Yeah. The pitched instrument, right? That's one of the big things we're going to talk about. What are students the worst at with timpani? It's not usually playing the drums.
It's tuning.
It's tuning. That's hard. It's still hard for us in college, right, Elizabeth? I'm not saying it's hard for you. I'm just saying you can speak to the
No, we
these
kind
struggles
of
of your.
spend like 2 whole studio classes just practicing tuning. So.
Yeah. That's always a tricky thing. Okay, let's just get to the drums and talk through some of what's going on with them.
Are we taking a field trip back there?
Sure, or whatever. Shift in whatever way you want. So
It's
that
a
you
field
can see
trip.
For us,
the drums. Some nice person pulled my laptop closer so that our online friends can see better.
Another black sweatshirt. This sweatshirt.
Okay. Be good. Thank you, Marco. I'll move this down so they can see. So one nice thing about our drums is we have covers. You probably won't have covers.
True.
Okay, so what's going on here?
Those are for Inchan. It's about.
They're ocean drums?
They're Da Vinci.
Those are not ocean drums.
I
Bruh.
don't know, maybe what are they?
40 ocean drums.
So,
We have to create a helicopter sound effect, and
Okay.
people before use like giant rectangular garbage cans they would bang around. I guess.
We're experimenting.
it'll be cool, you should come to the band concert.
I will definitely be there, assuming I'm in town. When is it?
The 17th November.
Then,
I'll be there.
that's my half birthday.
You snapped. I was like,
Damn.
oh, he's not counting.
Didn't even check my calendar, but I'll be there.
Let's go.
Cancel your other plans.
Yeah. It'll be a good
Whatever.
Okay, so it's nice that we have covers because why? Because they help protects the drums.
It protects our fabulous drum heads.
Protects our fabulous drum heads. Our drum heads suck. I've complained about this a few times.
We need new ones.
We need new ones. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because, be careful with people putting stuff on your timpani, right? This happens a lot in schools. Don't let people put stuff on your drums. It's not a table. If you really just pound it into them at the beginning, like when they're, whatever, 6th graders or freshmen, whenever you're starting them, usually they're pretty responsive to that, but if you try to sort of do it in the middle of their high school career, they're probably not going to listen to you. Please don't do that. Timpani are kind of like cast iron pans. They're both very durable, but also very sensitive at the same time. So it's hard to really ruin them, but it's very easy to kind of mess them up. And you got to reseason the pan.
And it's really hard to find an oven that nobody will fit.
Exactly. So I say that for a couple reasons. One is don't put stuff on the heads. We used to have, I guess before this year at some point, somebody made cardboard cutouts to put on top of these drums as makeshift covers, which I've seen before at other places. There's a fly. I don't like putting cardboard cutouts on timpani because of what inevitably happens, which happened here and which I've seen other places too, is there's some kind of stickiness happens eventually and the cardboard kind of sticks to it, and so now there's residue crap on all the heads that makes them sound worse and looks kind of gross. So don't do that. So either have actual real timpani covers, or I guess you could use a sort of cloth would be fine too. But honestly, your drums probably don't need to be covered. I don't think it's the end of the world if they're not. Just be careful with not putting stuff on them. Okay. We'll talk about moving them and how you need to be careful with that later. So the defining characteristic of timpani versus other drums is that they have a pedal. Also, what's the shape of the timpani?
It looks like a kettle.
Don't you remember talking about this?
Huh?
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 You had this discussion in percussion studio class too. The top is round, but the bottom, it's not the same as a snare drum, right? A snare drum is a cylinder, a bass drum is a cylinder. It is a bowl.
Oh, are you talking about what the shape is actually called?
Yeah.
I do not remember.
It's got a mathy name. It's a calculus.
Right.
Yes, parabola. It's a parabola. With extra
Oh
credit
my
for
god, we
Maddie.
were talking about that the other day.
That's the only thing I remember from calculus is the word parabola because it applies to timpani.
Maddie coming clutch with these big words.
Okay, so the reason it's important it's a parabola. You guys have calculus here, right?
No. We're in too
Rude.
small a school for that.
No, I just mean in the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
We, to be fair, we talked about parabolas in algebra.
Yeah.
That was not exclusive to calculus.
You just do a lot of parameters.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like a basic concept.
Why didn't we know it?
All the time.
And parabola isn't in my working vocabulary of shapes. I'm just gonna say.
It will be from now on.
Yeah. So the reason it's important as a parabola is because there's no head on the bottom, right? Actually, you can't really see, but there's a hole in the bottom. There's a little tiny hole in the bottom. They're bigger in some drums, depends on how they've constructed it. They need the hole because basically part of the way the sound works when you're playing any kind of drum, right, is you're hitting a head, a membrane. There's a bunch of air inside the drum, right, and that air is pushing because of the force of us hitting the drum. It's got to go somewhere. So in bass drums or snare drums, what happens is the other head starts to ring also. Timpani, we don't have that other head, so that's not absorbing any of that sound. So there's a hole in the bottom. Snare drums and bass drums also have a little hole in them too, right? We talked about that snare drum. But the reason it's important as a parabola shape is because it really drastically affects the sound to not have a bottom head. So the very middle of the timpani is a completely dead sound. So it's a no-play zone. Okay, we never want to play in the middle of the drum unless some composer's like using it as a sound effect, which is not going to happen. I mean, it might happen like in wind ensemble here or something, or concert band here, but it's not going to happen in seventh grade band. Right? So we don't want that sound. There's no pitch to that sound. There's very little resonance. Right? Vastly different sound here. So snare drums and bass drums have some difference between the edge in the middle and the very center, but not nearly as drastic a difference, and that's because it's a parabola shape. The very edge of the timpani sounds a lot different too, because I'll show you guys this in a bit, but basically the head on timpani is actually bigger than the rim. So you can see the rim and then the head here. There's actually about this much head that hangs between the edge of the bowl and the edge of the rim, and that's how we change the pitch, essentially. Okay, pedals. We have pedals on timpani. If they don't have pedals, that's gonna be a problem. unless you're playing some like Baroque chain drums, which if that's your situation, I can't help you. I mean, I could, but I won't be there. Okay, let's share a little bit. Okay, so all timpani have pedals, right, to change the pitch from low to high. It's not a whammy bar. This is distinctly different from a whammy bar. Okay, so there are different types of pedal mechanisms. However, I will say for the vast majority of public school situations, just period, you're going to see this essentially the same type of pedal as this drum, which is called a balance action pedal. Balance action. Okay, say it.
Balance action.
Now on the timpani quiz, when you get asked, you can know what to say. Okay. And the defining characteristic of the balance action pedal is that all you have to do is move your toe forward to tune the drum up, or move your heel back to tune the drum down. Okay, so you move it, you stop, you take your foot off, and it stays there, okay? So you don't have to hold the pedal down, you're only using it to move. The main other pedal types, there's basically 4 total, well, there's probably more than that, but there's kind of 4 dominant ones. But as far as like what you're gonna see in public schools, particularly in the US, it's like 99.9% of the time it's gonna be balance action. The only thing you might see is if you have some really sketch old drums, you might see something called a clutch basically all the other instruments, or all the other pedal types, have some kind of clutch that you have to, does anyone drive a stick shift? Marco, I bet you know how to drive a stick. You seem like somebody who learned to do that when you were 12. Respect, okay. Don't know where I'm going with this. It's like a stick shift, and then you have to kick in some kind of clutch in order to move. I mean, the analogy falls right after that, but there's some kind of clutch that has to be engaged to change the pitch of the pedal. So on really high-end drums, you have something called a Dresden or Berliner style pedal, in which you kick your foot in, kicks the clutch out, and then you can move the pedal up and down, and then you have to kick the clutch back in to stop. Yeah, it's called Dresden style, like the city Dresden, because a lot of this stuff was happening in Germany. They're very serious about timpani in Germany. And then Berliner style is kind of like the competing style, which is very similar, except for you have to essentially move your whole leg down to disengage the clutch, and then you're kind of doing this. The interesting thing is this sounds much worse, but the pedal mechanisms themselves are actually much higher quality. So like every major orchestra uses one of those two kinds of pedals. The pitch is much more stable because of it. So especially in like a high-end orchestra where they really are serious about the tuning being good, you're going to see those kinds of drums. But in all high schools, most colleges, and even like, I mean, I played a lot of professional timpani gigs when I was freelancing, and I always brought balance action drums, or played balance action drums. So it's not like they're not bad, it's just kind of, that's the difference. Clutch and post is like an old school thing that was kind of similar to the other two I'm describing, but you have to, it really sucks. You have to move. You can do one of two things. If you're moving the pitch up, you just have to push down with your foot, and it'll move the pitch up. But if you need to move the pitch down, or if you need to restart at the bottom, you have to push it all the way down, and it disengages, and then it lifts all the way back up, and then you can go up again. So it's really not fun, especially if you need to do anything quickly. It is atrocious, and they're very hard to use. Okay, but the most important thing is balance action. Right, when the pedal, it looks like this, the pitch is at its lowest point, everyone see it? And when the toe is all the way up, it's at its highest point. So when your heel is to the ground, that's the lowest. When your toe is to the ground, that's the highest. Okay. All drums, sorry? Yeah, all drums have an official range of like, this is the range it should be in. Typically it's defined as like a perfect fifth. Almost all drums, especially modern drums, actually have a larger range than that. But like the official ranges are around a major fifth, a perfect fifth. Okay, and we'll talk about how they overlap in a second. Okay, drum sizes. This is something you should actually know. Okay, which drum is which. So again, there's some variation historically, but luckily a lot of timpani stuff has really become standardized in the last several decades. So, almost all the time what you're going to see is, if you have 4 drums, 32, that's 32 inches, 29 inches, 26 inches, and 23 inches. Okay, if you only have 2 drums or 3 drums, if you only have 2 drums, you will definitely have the middle 2 drums. If you have 3 drums, it could be added to the outside. You're probably not ever going to see more than a set of 4 at a school. Colleges and professional groups have, a lot of times have a 5th timpano, piccolo drum. Pretty rare to see that outside of like a university or professional setting, but technically they exist. There used to be other wonky sizes. You might see something wonky and old at some point. I don't know, it's possible. But they're probably going to be 32, 29, 26, 23. We've all committed this memory, we don't need to write it down, that's fine. Great. You will be tested on it. Let's get some, start talking through some things. What's up?
I said I better write it down.
Timpani is written in which clef?
Sorry. Run that by me one more time.
Timpani are written in what clef?
In base.
Bass clef. This is correct. Okay, you will never ever see treble clef or any other clef timpani. So the general range we're going to see is going to be from below the bass clef staff, like it's pretty common to see like an E right below. Sometimes you'll see a D or a C. However, as I explained in my percussion studio, that's usually dumb. A low C below the staff is dumb. It's not dumb, it just doesn't, most drums can't actually produce that pitch effectively, so you end up not sounding good. And you're gonna go up to, typically the normal range you're going to see in writing, especially at the like middle school and high school, well, in the middle school level it's gonna be even smaller obviously, but high school level might be like from an E below the staff to like a G at the top of the bass clef staff. You might see an A. If you start to see like a B, the problem is you can't really get that pitch on this drum, and so that's why you need piccolo timpani. So hopefully we're not seeing that in high school literature, because that's bad writing for high school. But I do see it every once in a while. If it gets higher than that, it's just they are bad writers. What's the actual page notes? Very well, I'm looking for the, oh, here we go. Okay, books. 32A. Let's get our books out and look at 32A. 32A, primarily.
You said 32A.
32A. Okay. So, some of what I've talked about is on the page, right? Tuning the timpani is a very important aspect of being a successful pianist. Okay, good to know. But this is true, and it gets glossed over a lot. As I've said before, and I'll say again, I get a little bit annoyed when a band director asks me to come in and do, like, I'm coming in to whatever, do a master class or work with their students for a day or something. And they're like, oh, can you do timpani tuning? And they expect that at the end of the day, their students are gonna know how to tune timpani. I'm like, that's not how this works. It'd be like, can you teach my clarinet section to play a F sharp major scale? Maybe that's a dumb analogy. Someone come up with a better analogy for me on your instrument.
I mean, it's kind of like, well, using your RL skills, so if they can't mentally tune.
Yes.
Like mentally tuning your instrument.
It's like trying to teach them their like solfege by the end of the day.
Yeah. It's not like yes, there is a process and we're going to talk about it, but it's not like here's the process and now I know how to do it consistently and correctly, right? The thing you have to do is still takes time. It's a skill you have to learn like anything else. A skill you have to practice, right? Okay, so basic playing ranges. So he broke this down into the 4 drums, right? So you see 32 inch, 29 inch, 26 inch, 23 inch, as we just talked about. His ranges are, so he went with D to A for the 32, which is fine. Like I said, we'll see anything from a E down to a C, but the C kind of sounds bad. I typically think the D sounds kind of bad too, but it's fine. F through C on the 29, E flat through F on the 26, and D through A on the 23. All right, so again, like A is pretty high, but depending on the drums might be fine. Okay, so does everyone understand that these are like the two pitches are the lowest and the highest you can get, and then in theory, anything in between, well, in practice, anything in between. So one thing you'll notice is that there's overlap between the drums, right? Which is important because depending on what the pitches are in the piece, you might need that overlap. Okay, so let's just throw a couple things out there. So if you have a at the bottom of the bass clef staff, first bass A, what drum could you put that on?
32 or 29.
32 or 29. Okay, can you put it on the 26? No, you cannot. Okay, so it's important to know what your options are. All right, especially if a student gets handed a piece, you need to be able to help them figure out where to put the pitches on the drum. And one thing we don't do is just be like, oh, there's 3 pitches, 1, 2, 3. I mean, maybe that's correct, but maybe it's not, right? Maybe there's a tuning change in the middle. Hopefully there's not, especially for junior high. But you need to, it's not that complicated, but there's a little bit of problem solving skills involved in knowing where to put these pitches. Okay, so if you had, let's say an A again, and then let's say you handed it to me, you have an A, first bass, and then you have a D in the middle of the staff. Which 2 drums would you put that on?
The 29 and 26.
The 29 and the 26. Okay. Any other ideas or options? What's that? A, first bass in the bass clef, and then D, middle line in the bass clef. So you could put the D on the 23. So basically your options are you can put the D on the 23 and the 26, and you can put the A on the 29 and 32. Okay, what do you think makes the most sense?
The two closest to each other.
2 closest to each other. Okay, so anytime you see something like that, an A and a D, let's say you only have 2 pitches, which happens a lot. You always put the pitches right next to each other. You're never going to see a situation, of course, I'm saying this, you will see it, but you're never going to see a situation where the pitches are so far, where you have 2 pitches and they're so spread apart that they need to be like on the outer 2 drums, right? You're always going to see perfect 4th or perfect 5th if you have 2 pitches and they're going to be next to each other. It's going to be A, a D, a G and a C, a B flat and an F. So maybe depending on which F it is, it might be B flat and F, or it could be B flat and F if it's low to high. Okay, so we always want the pitches to be next to each other unless we have no other option. If we had, let's see. Okay, let's say we have a G, first line, bass clef, a G. We have a C, second space, and we have an F. So we have a G, a C, and an F in that pitch order. Wherever we put those pitches, what would we do?
32, 29, 26. Or more than just
32, 29, 26, right? So we have 3 pitches. So basically we either have to do that or we can do 29, 26, 23, right? Is one better than the other? Does one make more sense?
Depends on the piece, I guess. Context.
So we'll talk a little bit about it. In general, I would say in that situation, you can probably do either and it'd be fine. What I would do is figure out which one sounds better. And my guess would be that it would sound better on the low drums. Because typically, timpani tend to sound better in the middle of their range, or the higher end of their range. They tend to be a little weaker in the lower end. So I like to tune up if I can, meaning I would do the lower drums because they'd be higher in the range of the drum, if that makes sense. Yes. We're sleepy today, huh? We're so sleepy. Taylor's talking, it's boring. Okay, tuning the drums. So he has some good, Wiley that is, has some good comments on how to tune. Timpani tuning starts with the ability to hear and sing the pitch. Try to sing or hum some pitches from your bell kit or with the use of a pitch pipe. If you can't sing it, you probably can't tune it. Okay, it's useful. What's that?
Where's your pitch pipe?
You don't keep it on your deck?
So you need a reference pitch on timpani.
It's kind of plugged
Use
into
your
your
arm skills.
Okay, many of you are choir kids, so you all know what a pitch pipe is, right? So a pitch pipe's a good option. You know what a pitch pipe is? So a lot of percussion sections own like a pitch pipe and they use for timpani. There's kind of two problems with that. So I know what they are. There are three problems with that.
Kids don't always know, like, proper use, I guess.
Well, yeah, they're loud and it's possible to like underblow or overblow.
Yes. Okay. Underblowing and overblowing is a huge problem on pitch pipes. It's especially overblowing. It's very easy to basically blow them out of tune, especially if you're a 12-year-old boy. Right? You're probably gonna do it wrong. So that's a problem. The other problem is one pitch pipe for a percussion section. Everyone's blowing on that instrument.
Yes.
I think that's disgusting, personally. I don't know about you guys.
Steve quickly
guys share your instruments all the time. I don't want to hear it. It's gross. Here, give me your real
So I think it's
instrument.
gross, personally. You're welcome to make your own decision about whether or not you think that's gross, but you can. But like, so like in high school, I had my own pitch pipe and I used it to tune timpani. But in middle school, like it's not really, you're not going to make all your sixth graders buy a pitch pipe, probably. I guess you could try, but I guarantee it's not going to go well.
Got it. And you're out of the band. Pitch pipe necessary.
So one solution is you can do it as the band director.
Let's see,
Hey,
Maddie.
Maddie, you might be like slightly off
Sorry.
with our friends. One option is as the band director, you could use the pitch pipe. I seem to recall not a ton from middle school personally, but I feel like I would ask the trombonist, like sitting in front of me, can you play a G? And they would, and I would use that.
How well?
Chad was pretty good.
Apparently good
It was smart, it was not good.
Yeah.
Every single way.
Immaculate conception.
Yeah. Hope he's doing well. He's not. Chad's nice.
Who sits over there? Alexis is gonna need a G and they to the
They might need it, honestly.
Maybe just go for like the
So you could ask a low brass player. A lot of times percussionists will use an instrument in the section to get the pitch. I really don't like the idea of using a bell kit or bells, honestly, because why do you think I don't like that?
It's loud.
It's loud. Their ranges are wildly different, okay? A glockenspiel is already in treble clef versus bass clef, and remember, it sounds how much higher? 2 octaves higher than written. And actually, most people don't know this, but timpani, even though they're written in bass clef, the real fundamental pitch of a timpani is actually an octave lower than what's written.
Cool.
So there's you do the math, 6 octaves difference between what the actual pitch of the timpani is versus the actual pitch of the glockenspiel. Now, that doesn't mean it's impossible to get that, but I just think that's really hard for us, especially for a 13-year-old.
Do you think that they want you to use the bell kit because it's in the vocal range of the kids? So they can at
Those
least
kids are not in their vocal range.
Who is singing that high?
I'm so sorry.
That's
They're 2 octaves higher.
That's a really good question.
You go ahead and sing.
Why don't you go ahead and ignore the chit chat coming from the eaves. I don't know what's going on. That's a good question. So yes, the singing it is important. So obviously there's going to be some octave displacement, but I think there's a difference between it being like 1 octave or 2 octaves versus like this is at the high end of the human hearing capability on the one hand, and this is at the low end of the human hearing capability. I just think that's like a big stretch for a student, and particularly because students tend to get confused about like if you're like it's a B flat and an F. Well, you're gonna have an F on both sides of the B flat a lot of times anyway, so they already are confused about like which F versus which one's high, which one's low, that sort of thing. So I just think let's do our best to give them tools to not confuse them. So, I mean, if you have a marimba or a vibraphone or even a xylophone is better, you can use that. I mean, it's nice we have this piano here, I guess.
It's never really there.
It's only here for,
In town.
because there's a piano part.
Well, it's been here every day I've been here. And that's my whole experience. So,
It won't be here after 3 weeks.
No, but
right?
Don't get used to it.
okay. Well, in general, you might have a piano in your band room, right? And that might be something you could easily use. So I'm just giving you a bunch of options, okay? One thing that might be nice, I don't know how this looks like practically speaking, but I think a lot of times banders are kind of just like figure it out, you know, and I wonder if there's a way to be a little bit more engaging with the students, also that maybe engages the rest of the class, at least some amount of the time, like we can do this together. I mean, it is working on ear training skills, even for students who aren't playing percussion instruments, right? And it also might be nice as a sensitive percussionist. My personal thought is like, well, it's kind of nice if people in other sections know that like I'm trying to do something hard too, and it's not it's not easy to tune timpani. So it might be nice for people to know like, oh, this actually requires some amount of skill because I'm sure we've all been in band before. The band director's like, why aren't you tuned, Bobby? Let's go. Or they start the piece and you know Bobby's not ready. Anyway, no, have you guys been in this situation at some point? And the flutists are like, these percussionists are so stupid.
So
All those type A flutists are just judging the percussionists back there. It's true though, right? It's true.
You're not wrong.
Not gonna say yes, but also not gonna say no.
Yeah.
No, I never played
So
with
that
friends.
hurts. That hurts. We're people too. Okay. Percussionists are people too. Okay.
That happened. I'm sorry.
Singers are musicians too. Sarah.
Okay, so yes.
You're heard.
Hey.
The other thing I want to talk about is tuning forks. This is not really going to be something you're probably going to use much at the level you're teaching at, although in high school it really should be something you start to use. The tuning fork, not the pitch fork, which people say on accident all the time. It's like fork, pitch pipe, tuning fork, pitchfork. It does look like a tiny pitchfork. Okay, tuning fork is a fork that sounds at a specific pitch. Has everyone used one?
Yeah.
Oh, you have. Okay. Does everyone know the correct way to use a tuning fork?
Apparently not. Watching
Yeah.
you do this.
So, A, you need to hit it on something so that it actually rings. I can really feel it resonating in my hand. I hate when people are like, do this, and they're like, I can't hear it. It's like, yeah, it's not ringing. It has to resonate. Okay. Either hurt yourself or, you know, whatever, do it on your knee. It doesn't hurt me anymore. I built up. Like, what's his name from Princess Bride? You know, drank poison for 7 years to build up the tolerance. Okay, so what I see people tend to do is they hold the open end towards their ear to hear it. You can hear it. That's actually not the right way to do it. The right way is to put this part on this little part of your ear, and then it completely fills up your eardrum. Okay, so you can hear the pitch very, very clearly this way. In all tuning forks, there's different designs, but all of them are going to have metal basically on the tip because that is. They might have like a rubber handle. These ones don't. So the thing to do is to have an A tuning fork. That's what everyone says because orchestra's tuned to A. A equals 440. It's kind of funny because bands typically don't, right? Most bands tune to B flat. So I think that's kind of weird. But it's just a thing that nobody's wanted to change. I think the standard thing. I have like 3 to 4 tuning forks, and I tend to use whichever is relevant to the piece I'm playing. So like this is a C, it's bigger. And if I need to tune a, did you get it?
No, it's right there.
If you need a C and an F, then it actually is really nice to have a C tuning fork versus using an A. Obviously, I can sing a C and an F from an A, but I don't know. If I have a B flat and an E flat, I really hate having to do that from an A. Okay, maybe your ears are just so good that it's not a problem for you.
Obviously.
Happy for you, but I would rather not have to sing up a half step and then get a perfect fourth from that, because I feel like my half steps are like gonna be sharp, it's gonna be flat, and the whole interval's gonna be wrong. Also, I mean, practically speaking, I'm just listening to what the group is doing and adjusting my pitches to that, but just something to think about. Okay. It's like, I would pass these around, but I feel like for the sake of hygiene, maybe that's weird.
I don't need to test everything.
I have one.
Okay. You guys know how to use it correctly?
You just showed us.
Yeah, but sometimes I show people and then they still do it wrong.
Correct me.
Yeah, you can.
So-
No, you put it in your ear.
Yeah.
Like a wiki.
Just in the canal,
Show
like
it.
just
I feel like the
resonated
outside
for-
portion of my ear is pretty hygienic. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Oh.
Okay. So let's look at line number 1.
Anyways.
1 and 2.
You got it, buddy.
Line number 1, we're still on page 32A. What are my pitches? D flat and E flat. Okay, so sometimes in a piece of music, you will see at the beginning, it will tell you what pitches you use over the course of that piece. Sometimes it will just tell you the starting notes, and sometimes it will tell you nothing, and you have to look through and see what's going on. Obviously for an 8 measure, etude or whatever, or exercise, it's pretty easy to just look through and see what's going on. Okay, so I happen to have an E flat tuning fork. Okay, so that's an E flat. Okay, so in theory I would do this more quietly, but for tuning the timpani, we always want to start at the low end of the drum. Okay, so this is as low as the drum goes. We want to tune up to it and stop when we reach it. We don't want to do this. Okay, that's not. So let's sing the E flat. Sing it for me. Good. Okay, so in theory, that's all I should need, right? Obviously, your students aren't going to be able to do that from the beginning. But that's the process. We want to hit it, we want to hear the pitch, we want to slide up and stop. Okay? Sing the pitch, hit the drum. I do it very quietly with the finger, typically. Like I do this. Ears right above the drum. I don't want anyone to hear me tuning in real life, but for students, it's not a concern. Okay, if I'm on a stage with a professional group, I don't want the audience to hear me freaking tuning. Okay? Unless it's before the concert and everybody's tuning. But if I'm changing between movements or something, I'm going to do it very, very quietly. Okay. Now, what would be nice if I can tune. Okay, I didn't even ask you guys where to put the E flat. E flat's here. Where am I going to put the B flat? This one, which is 29.
Is that diagonal or is it?
Yeah.
It's
How
that.
many really diagonal of a circle?
Yes, it's diameter.
We have calculus for
We don't actually have.
They don't.
calculus
They
here.
only require 3
How many
math
cows can you
classes.
count?
We're just, scooting by.
So, where else can I put a B flat? So, can I put it on the 32 though? No, it's too high. Where else can I put it? I already put an E flat on the 26th.
Well, then you get no option.
Okay, so I have to put the B flat here. Okay.
Womp womp.
So again, it's not rocket scientist. Rockets. It's not rocket science. It's not calculus. It's not even algebra 2, Tara. But
Hey.
it does take some amount of thought to figure out. Okay, can you guys sing a B flat? So this is our E flat. Yeah. Can I actually hear it though? Are you guys in choir? Cool. Okay. Am I perfectly in tune? Am I perfectly in tune? Well, I guess your perfect pitch isn't so perfect. Nearly perfect pitch. Okay, so I like to do two things. I like to hear it as a melodic interval. Does that sound like a perfect fourth to you?
Sure does.
And then I like to hear it as a harmonic interval. Does that sound like a perfect fourth to you?
Pretty close.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Here in the percussion studio, we like to blame any tuning imperfections on the heads being short.
Sound bad.
They do sound bad, however, that's pretty good. Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the perfect fourth or perfect fifth sounds like pretty good when you play it, and then you play it together and you're like, that's not what it sounds like on a piano. B flat together, so I'm gonna figure it out. Okay. I don't understand all these tuning things. Someone's gotta give me a rundown. What was it? Oh, I'm going to Berlin where the just intonation seems more alive. I'm like, just settle down, Kevin.
It's always Kevin.
Maybe people just don't like your music, Kevin.
Be like Chad. Chad is Kevin.
Chad lives in Utah. There's no just intonation scene.
It never happens, man.
Sure, I'll play a G for you.
Just
like old times.
Cool. In the 1 minute we have left, does someone want to tune a B flat and E flat for us? Volunteers from the audience. Izzy, great.
Okay.
Yay.
So fun.
I got Tanner's like I actually volunteered.
Just hop on.
You look so sad.
Oh.
This is my 12th thing, but it's my They're looking for one more.
Sing an E flat. What do we think? It's quite low. It's like a half step low. There you go. Yeah, so we were more at a D. Okay. Could you guys hear the difference very well?
Yeah.
Okay. No, be honest.
I think it's just because she plays so softly.
Yeah.
Just blinded it on.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Normally you wouldn't tune a timpani from 10 feet away, so.
Okay, we'll talk more about tuning. We have to go. I have to go. But thank you. Good start.
Yeah.
guys.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna be on the open road.
As a percussionist.
Yeah, that's
Every
fine.
day I have to
I hope
set
that they're gonna love it.
set everything.
That's awesome.
You should.
But doesn't mean we have to leave
The
it
wind
like
is
this.
always